there's a basis for what they're talking about. I talked about this in October in my talks. The concept of what is called regulatory capture, right? Now, this is not something that somebody made up, some movie or whatever. This is somebody won a Nobel Prize in economics for working through this. And the notion of regulatory capture is that when you have a regulated industry, what you have are two groups of people, right? You have those who are regulating, right? So those who are being regulated, those who are being regulated, and those who are benefiting from the regulation. So it's actually, you have the consumers typically, right? And you have the producers. We also have the regulators themselves, right? Now, what are the fundamental differences in the producers and the consumers? Jenny, this morning's class, right? Business to business versus business to consumer marketing, right? What's a big difference between the produce in terms of the numbers, right? Between the producers and the consumers, or anybody else? What's the big difference?
There's very few producers and many consumers.
There are fewer, right? Many consumers, right? And what about the fewer and what else? How is the difference?
Producers are focused on producing like mass amounts for the consumers, or focused on consuming just a little bit.
Right. So as entities, they are much, much larger, right? So fewer larger versus many smaller. Right? If you had to organize one of these groups, which would be easier to organize? The producers. And so what the theory of regulatory capture, and a lot of evidence supporting this, is whenever you have a regulated industry, invariably, almost without exception, the regulation, the actual practice of the regulation, tends to skew in favor of the producers. Right? Why? Because there are few of them, so it's easy to organize. They are bigger, therefore they are richer, right? And the outcome of the regulation is so critical to their success, right? Versus, how much time do you spend in your, say, in a given month, caring about the price of soybeans? Approximately zero, right? If you work for Monsanto, right, the price of soybean seed in particular is critical to you, right? So here you have a highly motivated, small, powerful group, right? Versus, I have many other things to worry about, much, much larger group. So as a result of that, what is the implication? The regulation gets skewed in favor of the producers. And you saw that throughout the movie. Right? Throughout the movie, it's to do with the patenting of seeds, right? It's to do with the slaughterhouse safety conditions. Why do we care about this? Right? Well, why do we care about regulatory capture? Why does it matter to this kind of discussion?
I think it goes again with consumer awareness. We need to be more aware that a little less naive with who's telling us what's good for us and what's safe, and just take more personal control over our health.
Because the more obvious answer, which is government should do something, right, is not very effective, right? Yes?
I mean, I think what you have to look at is from the whole regulation viewpoint is that, over the past 2 years, we've seen that, when, financial industry has gone unregulated, it collapsed and put millions of people out of jobs, and our economy basically crashed worse than it ever has in the last 80, almost 100 years. So now you almost have to ask yourself, if we don't regulate our food industry to the extent that it needs to be, what's going to happen to that? Is that going to collapse? Are we going to start facing different types of diseases, antibacterial stuff?
But Chris, this is my question for you. Regulation doesn't help, right? As we can see, Monsanto is regulated, right? The financial system, the collapse is a little bit more complicated. People say they weren't regulated. Sure, we have SEC. What do you think the SEC does, right? But regulatory capture. The same people running the banks are the same people running the SEC, back and forth, right? So same problem. So more regulation, more regulatory capture. It's never the answer. See, it always seems to be the answer, right? What was that famous line about for every complex problem, there's a simple solution, and it's usually wrong? Right, so the solution, we need more regulation. Well, we've got a lot of regulation right now. It ain't helping very much, right? Yes?
But could it be that having regulation is not so bad if only the regulation was restructured differently from what it is today? So it's not the regulation itself that's wrong, but just how it is right now.
And how would you make it better?
That's a long question.
How would you make sure that this doesn't happen?
Well, I don't know, I guess, checks and balances at different places, far differently from what they are now. I don't know much about it to comment.
Yes, Virginia?
Well, I think the problem is the checks and balances, is that economically, this is why these CEOs are doing this, not because they're trying to be evil and take over the world. It's because it's just economically beneficial for the company. And when they're sitting in an office and they're not there working in the, in the chicken coops, they just see the economic benefits. And they say, well, this, genetically modified seed, this is a great innovation. And I think and because the consumers are not aware, they feel like, and the few who are feel like they have no effect on anything. So the consumers really are the ones who can drive the supply and the demand, and they can drive the economics of these producers. And they can, if they group together and do it as one, they can really change what the producers see is economically beneficial or not.
So, but why don't? I mean, I'm showing you, this is a new film, but I can show you 7 others over the last 8 years that I've been teaching this. I think every year there's something like this. So this is not news, right? Yes.
Well, I think it also goes back to convenience, where when they were showing the people that were hand doing the chickens and everything, who's gonna drive 5 hours to go get a chicken? The guy that was on there talking, oh, I drove 400 miles to come here and it was worth it. Who has the time to drive 4 or 5 hours to go get something when I can drive 5 minutes to the grocery store and it's more convenient?
We buy chicken from Polyface, from this guy, from Salatin. We also buy beef and eggs. And what we do is he actually drives up here. And he has a drop-off point at my neighbor's. And so once a month we go there, and we actually once every 6 months we buy half a cow and then freeze it all, in pieces. And then once a month we go and get eggs and stuff like that. But it's less convenient, right, than going to the store. So we have to think about, okay, over the next month, how many eggs do we need? And go buy, usually we're running out, or we have to make whatever. So the time constraints, right, versus the convenience. The industrial food gives us greater convenience, yes.
Well, money, because, organic food is so much more expensive than just regular food. And I don't know, after watching this movie, I went to the grocery store and I was trying to buy, more organic things, and then it added up, and it's I can only do it for so long, but eventually I'm just going to go back to crude chicken. And, I know it sounds bad, but it's costly, and I'm only a college student, so.
The price of food over the past decades has dropped dramatically because of the industrial approach to food. Right? The cost of healthcare has increased. And it's quite interesting. If you chart the cost of healthcare plus the cost of food, they're about equal. So in other words, the exact amount that the price of food has gone down, the price of healthcare has gone up. Which sort of says that the food is making us less healthy. So you may be saving money on food, but your health bills will go up. It's interesting watching the video, right? A lot of people with braces. You didn't have braces 100 years ago. You could have, but you didn't need them. But it's the eating sugar from a very early age apparently undernourishes children. So our faces end up being narrower. And there's not enough room for our teeth, so we have to wear braces. Because if you raise your kids on good natural foods from the beginning, they'll never wear braces. 6 kids, nobody in our family has braces. Yes.
Why wouldn't the guy from Polyface distribute to a place like Whole Foods or an organic supermarket like that? Just from your own personal opinion.
Yeah, the reason he does now, Stonyfield is happy to, right? This is the Walmart, right? So there's 2 different approaches. There's the Stonyfield approach and the Polyface approach. What Saladin is saying is the order size from a Walmart or Premium or Whole Foods is so enormous that he can't manage it. He would have to expand way too big in order to give them in the amounts that they want. Okay. So he won't sell to them. But the other thing that comes up is once you start selling to a Walmart or to a distributor, and particularly once they get you to start investing, okay, so we'll buy from you, but you need 300 more acres worth of cows or whatever. you do that, but then they have you in a trap, right? Because now you've made your investments, you owe money to the bank and so on. And so if they say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it's the same story with the chickens, right, from the last movie. And so Saladin's approach is, I want to be my own man. I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to grow what I want to grow, and he can always sell everything he has. So he could be much richer than he is right now. But his attitude is, I love my life. I got this great, beautiful farm that I live on. I'm working outside 7 months of the year, and then through the winter, he's kind of kicking back, relaxing, adding up numbers, planning. There's nothing to do on a farm in the winter, not that much, you know. And so it's a great life, you know. It's like 3-4 months of vacation every year, you know, and then working outdoors all year long. So he didn't want to go any bigger than that. So that's kind of a different mentality, right? Not this sort of as big as you can, kind of take advantage of. Yes.
I mean, again, it comes back to the skewed economic incentives from the subsidies as to why this stuff is happening on a larger scale. Because the family, that Hispanic family,
Yes.
That they're showing, going to Burger King, and then going to the grocery store and trying to buy, healthy vegetables for the same equivalent cost, and they couldn't do it. And that's because of the subsidized corn and.
Yeah, here's a paradox. I don't know if this is true because I've not done the analysis, and it would not be easy analysis to do. But if you think about it, you say, well, if you cheap food, don't scoff at this. This is really important for poor people, right? So if the industrial system can make the food cheaper, even if it's not as healthy, hey, if it's way cheaper, isn't that a good thing? Yes, in itself, right? But if the price of food goes down, right, significantly, and all other things remain the same, what happens to wages, do you think? They go down, right? Because if the price of food goes down, then the cost of living goes down. Therefore, you can compete wages down to a lower level. And so this is an illusion. We say we're doing poor people a favor because we're lowering the price of food. In the end, not, because the wages go down to meet them, right? Do you see what I'm saying? If the price of food doubled tomorrow, right, what would happen to wages? They would have to increase, otherwise everyone would die, you know? And then you couldn't have to run a business if everyone is dead, you know? You can only bring in so many immigrants, that's, then they would die too because they couldn't afford to buy the food. You see what I'm saying? So again, I don't know if this is true. I don't know, because I haven't done the analysis, and that would be a huge, piece of analytical work that I think would be worth doing. But in principle, it makes sense, doesn't it? But